From MTN Sports, welcome to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Grizz Insider here on the Montana Television Network. Alongside the voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, I'm Kyle Hansen, and we're your hosts as the Montana Grizzlies got their 8th win of the season with a 28-17 victory over Portland State. Another one of these games that we're kind of looking back on, and man, things just got a little weird, Riley, at the end of the day.
I tell you what, Kyle, there cannot be a normal game inside Washington Grizzly Stadium this year. There's no way. Even the Moorhead State game, the fact it lands on 59-2. We've had a little bit of something bizarre all the way around it. I didn't think that we'd be doing a broadcast off our phones here in 2024, but it happened, and Montana got the win. And I think the main headline of all of this is Montana punches their ticket to the playoffs. And I know there's a lot of goals inside, plenty to talk to, especially on this show. It'll be great previewing the big matchup this week. But long story short, Grizz do get in the playoffs. Took a wild way to do it, though.
100%. Big win at the end of the day. They just want to get the win. First half, though, I mean, you look at it and just it's so weird and kind of flat, right? Because the Portland State obviously comes out, and we talked about this. 2-7, their record was not indicative of how good this team actually was, especially offensively. They come out, get the first field goal from there, and 9 scoreless drives between both teams, as it was like Portland State was kind of shooting themselves in the foot, and Montana really just couldn't get anything going.
It was wild just to see how that game started. And I think the lack of energy maybe in the building, quite frankly, a hangover effect from the UC Davis game. And when you naturally have a game sandwiched in between 2 top 5 opponents, your rivalry matchup is looming on deck, and you're playing a 2-7 team, it's going to be a natural letdown one way or another. And I think we saw that, and there was just no life in the stadium, no spark. And for there to be 9 straight drives without a point is just wild, because Portland State came in one of the worst defenses in the country, but yet a really good offense, as you mentioned, with Dante Sachere. They played the #1 schedule in the FCS, 2 FBS opponents, 4 FCS in the top 10. So they were much better than their record. And it took 60 minutes for Montana to finally find their way, which we're going to talk about in the second half, was so big for them to finally get going offensively.
Portland State obviously using that run game really well, and Sachere might have been dinged up a little bit, really wasn't the bell cow that he typically is. And it was really funny, right before halftime, I actually got a chance to chat with Portland State coach Bruce Barnum before our live interview on the broadcast, and even he was looking at the scoreboard, he's like, what is this score? What's going on right now? He's like, it was just a weird feel in that first half. Obviously turned the page to the second half, and you know, Kaylee got dinged up at the end of the first half. Hope he's okay and everything like that. Logan Fife takes over. 5 touchdowns between both teams in the second half. Really just rocket ship from there.
It was, and Montana made the adjustments they needed to, and there's no question Logan Fife was the spark coming in. 4 consecutive touchdown drives for the Montana offense, and it was a little bit of everything, Kyle, where they were opening it up in the pass game and connecting on those deep balls. Really happy for someone like Aaron Fonts, first receiving touchdown of the season. Comes to be kind of the game clincher. Sawyer Racanelli, his first touchdown of the year, albeit he's not a senior, but just the big plays. And I think that's what Montana's offense has been missing. And it was nice to see the running game open up, too.
No doubt about it, Riley. And then obviously Eli Gilman finally got going again, right? 134 yards rushing for him. It was interesting. The Grizzlies' first half, 120 total yards. The second half, 326. I mean, you really saw the page completely flip for them. And defensively, forcing 5 turnovers was massive. Jace Klusewicz and then Tyson Rosted kind of at the end, which no one really saw because of some, freaky things going on at the stadium. But, big game from the defense to kind of really halt that Portland State offense, which really was doing a nice job of moving the ball.
Yeah, twofold on that. Eli Gilman to get going. If Montana wants any success down the line, it has to be the running game that gets them going with the offensive balance. And on the defensive side of things, to force turnovers. That's when this defense creates havoc. We've seen it now 3 of the last 4 games, albeit the UC Davis game was the one that did not happen. But when Montana's forcing turnovers on defense, everything else seems to click. That complementary football piece that we love to talk about with all 3 phases kind of works together. And that's when Montana is at their best. And I still think that's why there's potential for what's on the horizon this week. Who knows, again, what's going to come out when it comes to the quarterback situation. But the Grizzly offense showed the life and the potential that we saw when they had their explosive outage, let's just say, offensively in the early part of the season. And long story short, Grizz get it done by double digits, and now they can set their sights on rivalry week.
Huge game coming up. Yep. We're excited about it. Well, coming up, Riley will catch up with head coach Bobby Hauck, talk about the win over Portland State, and after that, linebacker Ryan Tirrell will join the show to talk about his career and look ahead to the Bobcats. Stick with us. We'll be right back here on the Grizz Insider.
There's more coverage of the Grizzlies online anytime at montanasports.com. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizz Insider. Montana gets their 8th win of the season, clinching a playoff spot, and now they get set for Rivalry Week, playing the neighbors across the hill. Head coach Bobby Houck here to join us now. And coach, a wild game for a lot of different reasons. Didn't think we'd be doing the post-game interview on the phone first off. The lights go out, and it's a 3-0 first half. What more could have been more bizarre? Your thoughts from just a crazy day inside Washington Grizzly Stadium?
Yeah, it was wild. In terms of the first half of the game, both teams are trying to figure each other out. There was some going back and forth on scheme on both sides of the ball. They did a great job of shortening the game. That was their object. Their defense did a really nice job. Shut us out in the first half, and all of a sudden you're at halftime and it's 3-0. You're like, wow, we got us a game now, boys. Let's go.
Well, when you look at it, it's twofold, right? You're really pleased with the defensive effort because you go into it. Dante Sacheret puts up crazy numbers and trying to contain him. You guys did that. Then on the flip side, offensively, hoping for a little bit more production. So what was the temperament like? What was the mood like at halftime? Just because it was a different style of game, you guys clearly made the adjustments you needed to. But what were the conversations kind of like at halftime, Coach?
Oh, like you said, there's some things to be done, and we only have a couple of minutes, so it's all X's and O's and adjustment on scheme and what we're going to change and what they're trying to do to us. And so you've got offense, defense, special teams. You make those adjustments, and you got to get back out there to do the radio.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to get back out there. It's a strict time crunch, Coach. And then we go to the second half. Logan Fife comes in at quarterback. The offense gets going. Big time plays. 81-yard touchdown to Sawyer Racanelli. Great to see Aaron Fonz, his first receiving touchdown of the season. So what opened up with the offense, of course, with Logan Fife in there, and what went well is you guys scored 4 consecutive touchdowns.
Well, the way they were playing us and kind of selling out defensively, there's big plays available. It's just when and if they're going to happen, and the odds are you're going to get a couple. And we did. You break a tackle, or a guy shakes loose in coverage, or you crease him, and then there's no second level or third level in the run game. So we had all those things happen. Got away from them in the second half, but that was wild, man.
Well, Coach, Saturday was special inside the stadium for a lot of different reasons. Now, milestones for games. I don't know if you knew this leading in. It was your 100th Big Sky Conference game.
I didn't know it till you told me after.
Well, see, I like surprising you every now and then. 79-21 the record. And then, of course, the family ties in the game. Robbie Houck. On the other side, it's a special teams coordinator, tight ends coach, the Barnum connection with Cooper, as well as Bruce on the other side. And then we're going to talk to your nephew, and Ryan Tirrell, for his senior day. So just all in the family. What was it like? Obviously, I know each game has its own chapter, and this one had to be pretty special.
Yeah, it's pretty unique, obviously, in college football. And the one place where I thought they got the best of us is the juvenile delinquent special teams coordinator from Portland State. Got the best of us a little bit. But yeah, it was really cool. Ryan's senior day, he played really well and has been a great player for us. It was great for Coach Barnum to be there when Coop got introduced. I mean, it was just really a cool deal. And Scott Linehan and I were talking. He says, I don't know how often I've ever even heard of a guy coaching directly, game planning directly against his son. So that was unique in and of itself too. So I'm glad we came out on top, so I didn't have to listen to it at Thanksgiving dinner. And yeah, on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. And final question for you. It is Rivalry Week. You're taking on Montana State, the team that comes in. Obviously, they've had a great season so far. Just your overall take on the matchup going in there to enemy territory and trying to pull off the win.
Well, it's the big game on the schedule. Maybe the big game on the schedule in the conference every year, and they're rolling. They're number 2 in the country and are undefeated. I don't know how many people are going to give us a chance to win this game. We'll see. We'll prepare for it and go down there and do our best.
My goodness, it should be fun. The 123rd Brawl of the Wild, Montana State, Saturday at noon. On the other side of the break, Kyle Hansen will talk with Ryan Tirrell on the Grizz Insider.
Get social with Grizzly fans and follow MTN Sports on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back to the Grizz Insider, and we're very excited to be joined by senior linebacker Ryan Tirrell as we prep you for the 123rd Brawl of the Wild between Montana and Montana State. Ryan, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. And, let's talk about the game against Portland State and some of the wackiness. First of all, have you ever played in a game with a power outage? I know you've played in small towns before, but have you ever seen the lights go off in the fourth quarter before?
No, that's my first power outage.
Okay, how about that?
First one, yeah.
What was it like?
I think the only thing that was weird was we didn't know how much time was left in the game. But
Sure.
other than that, I mean, it wasn't any different. But that was definitely weird.
How were you guys like getting updates? Did you know it all, or was it just kind of just play by downs and just go by feel?
Our coaches were letting us know.
Sure.
You know but on the field, when we were on the field, we had no idea. Besides if they announced it over the speakers.
It's kind of funny because in the fourth quarter, Portland State's driving a little bit, right? And then Tyson gets that interception that essentially seals the game and everything.
Yeah.
And so for you, I guess just kind of walk us through that defensive sequence. You know, maybe it's a little darker than normal, the sun's setting, and then you guys are trying to make a stop, right? And everybody else is, you know, distracted by what's going on elsewhere around the stadium.
Yeah, you know, there were certainly distractions because of that power outage, but our defense did a good job of just keeping our heads down. Tyson came up, made a big play for us. So, yeah, we just keeping our head down, playing ball still.
100%. So let's talk about the game as a whole, right? Senior day, very big day for you guys with 26 seniors. So we'll start with that. Just, you know, being a part of that class and being honored before the game, and obviously you're a Missoula native. Just how special was that?
Yeah, I'm just incredibly thankful for all 26 of those guys. You know, they couldn't have done it this long without each other, and they're certainly people I'd lean on now and future years of my life.
Speak about the first half, right? Weird game, 3-0 at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny, Portland State scored on the first drive, and then from there, both teams, it was really kind of a defensive stand. And obviously, Portland State has a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So defensively, how did you guys kind of lock down, come up with big turnovers, and really kind of stifle them when you needed to?
Yeah, you know, our secondary came up and made a bunch of big plays. Cluse and Tyson, they had some awesome picks, and just up front, you know, putting pressure on the quarterback allowed everybody on the back end to make some plays. So it was good to get some pressure on them, and ended up coming out with some turnovers, which is always good. And
you know, the offense to cash some of those turnovers in, right? So that second half, as it kind of turns into a little bit of a shootout, you guys get the stops when you need it, and the offense comes alive a little bit more. Just what was that like going through that, and how gratifying was it to see everybody kind of come together to ultimately get the 8th win of the season?
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, I didn't have any doubt in our offense. I knew they'd pick it up the second half, and it was great to be able to rely on them, making plays when needed, even when we couldn't. They had our backs, and so it was a good team win.
For you, as a guy who is from Missoula, just how would you describe your time at Montana right now? As you mentioned, kind of wind things down a little bit. You know, there's still football to be played, but you know, just kind of take a minute to look back at what you've done, and you've worked your way steadily up the ladder over the years to be a senior and one of the best tacklers in the league now. Just what's it been like at Montana for you?
Yeah, it's tough to put that into one sentence, but it's been nothing short of amazing. If there was one sentence that comes to my mind right now, it'd definitely be amazing. I've had the greatest time ever making some of my best friends, and just being able to go out and just have fun with everybody. It's been awesome.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So obviously, coming up next is the big one, right? You're a Montana guy through and through. No one needs to explain to you how big this game is to the game, and obviously your family ties with Bobby Houck as your uncle. Just so for you, it's kind of a two-part question. One, just your initial thoughts on the Cats and this upcoming game, but also what's it been like to play in this game after growing up watching it, and you know, just be a part of the history that is the Brawl of the Wild.
Yeah, you know, they're putting together a good season this year, so they obviously have a lot of good weapons offensively and defensively. So you know, it's a big game for us, especially being a Montanan. It's super important to all of us, and we care deeply about this game and this rivalry. Everybody just needs to keep their head down this week, focus on the main goal, and that's going 1-0 this week.
No doubt about it. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us here on the show, and good luck this Saturday against the Cats.
Thanks, Kyle.
100%. Coming up, Riley will rejoin me here on the Grizzly Insider.
Take coverage of the Grizz with you. Download our app for your favorite mobile device today. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizz Insider. It is Rivalry Week, the one that the other 51 weeks revolve around when it comes to the state, Kyle. And as two Montanans, it's always great, I think, for both of us to just sit and reflect on how special of a week this is, and that we're a part of it for a big-time matchup again on Saturday.
It really is neat, right? And you look at our perspectives, too, because we get a chance to work these games. Yeah. And it's so fun, like you mentioned, being two guys from the state of Montana. We got a chance to watch this game year in, year out, whether you were a fan of the Grizz, a fan of the Bobcats, whether you just had friends who went there, because neither of us did go to these schools. It's fun to just kind of be a part part of it, right? It's quintessentially Montanan, and that's what I've enjoyed the most about the game. So getting a chance to work it, be on broadcast, call it on the radio, that's very special, and it's going to be a big game. I mean, it is the cliche that everyone always says, throw the records out, but sometimes you might have to, and honestly, you're wondering when a road team is going to win this game.
You really do, Kyle, and not only that, you're wondering when we're going to have a close game, because there's so much buildup leading into this, but it's been runaways the last couple of years, and not only of that, it's been the home team with dominance. Just share some light a little bit on the numbers and everything that we were kind of going through with the prep, thinking this is wild that a rivalry that's so close, you would think, has been one-sided the last 4 seasons.
Especially because the last few years it's been top 10 matchups, right? That's the other thing. It's been deciding Big Sky championships. It's been for big-time playoff seeding. So when you look at the numbers, it's really fascinating because in the last 4 games, it's been the winning team has outscored the losing team 169 to 52. If you break it down even more, that's a 42 to 13 victory, basically. 2-2 for both teams, obviously at home the last couple of years. And I don't know what it is, right? Because then they leave that game and teams will make a run in the playoffs. You think of the Cats losing in 21, then made a run in the national championship game. So it's all about kind of the aura, maybe it's the excitement, the jitters, but it has always been the team that throws the first punch. So when it comes to the Cats or the Grizz, you really want to get that early going because, especially if you're the home team, that's proved to be the difference maker.
And this is a hat tip to both crowds and both fan bases that when that first punch is delivered and that team has been the home team that's delivered it, it's a body blow. It's hard for the other team to get off the mat, to use boxing terms a little bit, but it has been the case. And for Montana, needing to go on the road and win for the first time in 9 years over in Bozeman. 2015, the last time they were able to do it. Let's go inside the matchup a little bit more. And Kyle, there's no bones about it. Montana State offensively, they've been incredible. No one has been able to stop them. First time ever out to an 11-0 start to their regular season. But just talk about their offensive weapons, how they've been able to do it, and all the numbers they've been able to pile up.
Well, I mean, you look at that offense and the rushing attack, right? That's just where it all starts. And you just have to kind of sit back and marvel at it when you watch it. The creativity of it, how many weapons they have using it. Obviously, it all starts with Tommy Millott, right? He's now a senior ever since he took over in that 21 season in that run of the national championship. And you got to imagine he's a top 2, top 3 candidate to win the Walter Payton Award for the best offensive player in the entire FCS. You look at the 3-headed attack with their running backs, including Missoula native Adam Jones, who might be in the running for freshman of the year. So they just have so many weapons. Their offensive line is absolutely tremendous. And defensively, they've been a lot better, even though they've been nicked up with injuries on that side. Next man up, and they've done a great job with that.
They have. It's kind of that bend but don't break philosophy. And against UC Davis in their big win that won them a Big Sky championship, or at least a share of it, for now, they went 7 straight drives without allowing UC Davis to score. I mean, the Grizz saw firsthand how explosive that offense can be. And up front, I think they have been very strong, very stout up front on both sides of the ball. And it's going to be interesting, the intangibles that come into place, right? You think for Montana, as we flip this around, for Montana to have a good opportunity, you would think going in there, special teams, the intangibles, Junior Bergen, and maybe those Montanans, 49 Montanans on the Grizzly side, you would think they might have something to say about that.
100%, right? And someone wants to make the statement win, right? So the last time there was a road win in this game at all was 2018 when the Cats won in Missoula. So like you mentioned, 2015 last time for the Grizzlies. They'll be ready for that. And just you look at some of the names, right? And you look at the towns too, because obviously a couple of Billings guys, a lot of guys from there, a lot of Bozeman and Missoula kids on flip-flop rosters, and then the small towns, right? I mean, you have Savage, Montana on the Grizzlies. You have Melstone, Montana on the Bobcats. Like really all communities are connected in this game, and that's what makes it special.
It'll be great. And even for us, we'll go inside the match and say, okay, right tackle from Billings against defensive end, or be from Savage, and just have all those matchups inside. And when we talk about national implications, it's big. For the Grizz, they win, outside chance still of a bye. And for the Cats, it's either probably a top 2 seed, top 4 seed, still national implications too.
And for the Cats, you're looking at a legit national title contender too. Like that's the team now you're now going in to try and beat. You look at North Dakota State, South Dakota State. Well, Montana State is as legit as it gets. So the Grizzlies are going in trying to knock off one of the best teams in the entire country.
And trying to wreck a perfect season. It'll happen at noon on Saturday. Cannot wait for that. We'll wrap up the show next.
There's more coverage of the Grizzlies online anytime at montanasports.com. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Well, it's one of the most exciting weeks on the sports calendar in the state of Montana as the 123rd Brawl of the Wild is officially here. So, Riley, go ahead and tell the folks what you have on deck this week.
A big week. Always is, right? It seems the moment we get to Sunday morning, it's a different kind of energy. And especially going back down memory lane, Inside the Den podcast this week, talking with a lot of Grizzly greats, the perspective on what this game, this week means, and really the legacy that you leave no matter what happens in that 60 minutes that we'll see on Saturday over in Bozeman. And then special pregame show Show. We go on the air 2 hours before kickoff, 10 a.m. on the Grizzly Radio Network, a special feature on the Montanans. 49 of them for the Grizzlies, a couple more for the Bobcats as well, but it'll be fun to go inside the matchup. And as always, Kyle, the toughest thing this week, just getting some sleep.
No doubt about it. We're fired up and ready to get going. Well, the pregame show for the Scripps Sports broadcast will also be at 11 a.m. and kickoff at noon. We will have your coverage across the entire state, as well as stories and historical facts leading up the entire week on the Montana Television Network. We're fired up and ready to get going for the 123rd Brawl of the Wild, and we'll see you next week here on the Grizz Insider.